Hey guys, welcome back to the Real Estate Monopoly. This is Kerwin,
And this is Kenneth.
and we are the Donis brothers, and we are here today. We just got some fresh cuts, and we're just hanging out. And we're very excited for the weekend. It's been a great week, but we also have an amazing guest here today. Maggie, say hey.
Hey guys, good to
Awesome.
see you guys. A nice fresh haircut.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Got a
Yes, nice to
fade.
see you as
If you're
well.
on video, if you're watching on video, you can check it out.
Yeah.
But today's guest is Maggie. Maggie comes from an audit and risk management background and has been investing in real estate since 2011. But before transitioning to full-time real estate, Maggie worked in large financial firms on Wall Street, where she specialized in risk management and investment management. After working on Wall Street, Maggie has made the transition into real estate to help other finance professionals invest in Main Street. I wanted to drop that. In 2020, she, alongside her two business partners, Lana Choi and Jin Wang, have formed Sage Investing Group. And with a collective real estate portfolio of over 2,600 units, Sage Investing Group focuses on sourcing, underwriting, and vetting private investments for their own portfolio, but also for their investors. Maggie, I'm so excited to have this conversation. We're also very good friends with you. So very awesome time to just have a conversation with you. So thanks a lot for being here. Starting out, I would love to know, how did you first get into real estate?
Yeah, I think I'm like most people who started. I think well, my family does not know much of real estate except for buying single family one by one and pay it off. That's
Yeah.
really the span of my history in real estate. So and that was my goal too, is just to buy one by one and then pay off the debt, and eventually when I retire, they will kind of like fund my living.
Yeah.
So that was traditionally how I was doing it. Um, and I think bigger pockets was really fundamental in my life because
Mhm.
it kind of expand my world beyond doing that approach one by one, and it's great. Where I think what happens, like I think at one point in my time, there was a shift in my focus, and that create a really big interruption on my thinking process, and I kind of had the need to expand more and figure out, okay, how do I actually scale bigger and do
Yeah.
bigger projects and not just one by one. That I realized it's quickly. It took me forever to get where I want to be. So
Yeah, there's a lot I want to unpack there. But starting out, I know I mentioned earlier you worked in Wall Street, and that's like something a lot of people, honestly, even our age and just in general, aspire to do.
Yeah.
So that's really awesome that you did that. I'd love to know, can you kind of provide some context first? What were you doing in Wall Street, and what was your background there?
yeah, so I'm a career. I call myself a career auditor at the time. So I have a CPA background,
Mhm.
and fundamentally I just do and what audit is really looking into a business or into a processy and break it down, understanding the business, and try to figure out if there are any risks that maybe the company has not thought of, or they have not put in the right system in place. And sometimes it's just there's a lot of things that's in business is either you look at it as you either have a system process in place
Mhm.
to cover some kind of risk that you're trying to cover. But there's a fine line to it, because the more system in place, it comes at a cost. It may cost their business endeavor or its future. So there is a balance to it. And my job is to kind of go in and assess it and understand how risky is some situation and how likely could a certain situation, and what kind of process do we need to put in place. And that's our recommendation. So that's been what I've been doing for a long time in my career when I was at Wall Street.
Yeah, that's awesome. And this kind of ties into how, in real estate now, we're always trying to assess the risk level of each asset that we're potentially investing in, right? And, everything has a certain risk to it. So I think you coming from that kind of background definitely helps, just kind of assessing the risks to certain assets that you look
Yeah.
to invest in.
No, and I love digging into like all of our guests' backgrounds and kind of to provide like the holistic view of who you are as a person and your mindset when it comes to real estate. And I know you also come from an immigrant background. Your parents were immigrants, and I think that's really important. We also come from an immigrant
Yeah.
background, so that's why I'm always like fascinated to know, how has that impacted your view on success, grit, and perseverance, not just in real estate, but like in business in general.
And personal life. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think and that's why we kind of
Yeah, we
get
vibe.
along so
Yeah.
well. So every time we come together, the three of us, and and it's three of you guys, right?
Yeah.
So it's almost like a competition.
Exactly. May the best trio win.
So yeah, I think I think there is something to it to be an immigrant, because it's almost like another hurdle that you have to go through. And when growing up, my family doesn't come from a very, we're not from a civil spoon or per se. So we have to figure out a way to make us. And my parents immigrated when I was very young,
Mhm.
and they have they don't speak English, so similar to your family. But they figure out a way to create a business. It's a restaurant business, of course. Not of course, but it's but so there a lot of it. It's more like how to. I think I think how I am is comes directly from them, because they work so hard to make a living for themselves and provide for their children, for me. And so I feel like I need to make it happen in order to pay it back to them. So
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, no, I love that. So basically, what growing up, you said that your parents started a food industry in the food
Restaurant,
industry,
yeah.
or a restaurant.
yes. Mhm.
Wow, that's really cool. So you kind of had that entrepreneurial mindset and yeah, just mindset around you growing up. How has that like impacted you kind of growing up, and did you ever, like, did you always want to start your own business, or did you
Oh
kind of
no.
pursue so you pursued going into Wall Street, like my brother
Yes.
said, and that's all you wanted to do, and then buy a few rentals?
Yeah, I think I think there's a shift in mindset.
Yeah.
When my growing up, my parents had a restaurant, and I majority of my life I helped out in the restaurant, and I'd seen how involved it was, and
Mm.
they work like pretty much 364 days, and they only get Thanksgiving off.
Wow.
And on
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, we all go
Yeah.
to Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Casinos.
Celebrate.
Yes. So that's and that was how in my mind, I was like, I do not want to do this.
Mhm.
I do not want to be working 364 days out of the year and at a restaurant and on my feet. And I am
Yeah.
not born to be on my feet
Yeah.
16-hour days. So I felt like I needed to. I felt like the only way out for me at that time was to get an education
Mhm.
and get my study in, and then, of course, my parents are Tiger parents, so
Yeah.
I had to make sure that I continue my studies, because they want the best for me is not to continue the restaurant business. They want me to get a steady job. They want to be doing accountant. They want to be, I'm all set up in my life.
Mhm.
Get a corporate job. I'm all set. So
Yeah.
that was my thinking along that. Save money, corporate job, buy rentals, retire.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was it.
A lot of people have that mindset even today, and like a majority of people do. And one of my favorite questions to ask, especially when people have achieved a big level of success and a lot of people aspire to where you reached in the corporate world, why even invest in real estate in the first place? Like, what was the appeal if you had already been quote
Yeah.
unquote successful?
Yeah, that's a so that there was a shift. The shift was really my kids, because when as soon as that they were born, I realized quickly, like, the women, or that's
Mhm.
ahead of me in the corporate ladder. I see a few step ahead, like what they're doing and their
Yeah.
family, and it's almost seemed like they don't really have time for their family, and that's not really what I wanted it. And so uh, my priority shifted, and it was just a shock to me. And I just can't imagine myself working 80 hours. It was a long days too at the corporate world, and I love my job, and I love doing what I'm doing. I have, like, there was different projects and there are different problems to solve, and that's what I love to do. But I couldn't do it well, and also being a parent. So
Yeah.
there's something that went in. I think as soon as once you have kids, I have more respect. I think I have more respect for my parents when I have kids too, because their goal is to provide a family. And there's another level to finding financial. There's a more harder drive to find financial freedom,
Mhm.
because I want to spend my time and with my children. So,
Yeah, I love that. And so as you made that transition, when we first got into real estate, we had a lot of limiting beliefs. Like we thought we didn't have enough money or network or experience. Maybe a lot of different things that would kind of potentially serve as mental blocks. Did you have any limiting beliefs when you first started in real estate? If so, what were they?
oh, of course. Of course, I have so much limited belief of like, can I do it? I think it's because I was in the corporate world, there's nobody around me who's doing something like this, and
Yeah.
how am I gonna get started? And if I look at, and also if I look around the real estate industry, especially in the commercial industry, there's tend to be a lot more male dominant. Now it's changing. I love seeing that there's a lot more women in the industry.
Yeah.
But a few years ago there wasn't. So it was very hard to see myself in this breaking into the industry. So there's just tons of limiting belief, head trash.
No, I like the phrase. I've heard you use that phrase, head trash, and we even like still to this day sometimes have head trash. Kenneth, I'm sure we can agree.
All of us, yeah. And so when it comes down to having all that head trash, I like to say that having a strong why or a burning desire, right, is what keeps you going and just makes you kind of try to knock every wall that comes in your way. And it seems like you had a very strong why in finding financial freedom for your kids.
Yeah. And so when you first started, I know you had some single family experience, and if you could provide some context there with like what you did there, but I'm more interested in kind of diving into, I've heard you use the phrase, you got some scope. I know you guys use that in the auditing world. You got some scope when you first got into, I believe it was multifamily, and you just kind of like started like learning. And I would love to know, what were the initial steps you took when you first got into real estate, specifically the multifamily space?
That's good. You're paying attention.
I'm taking notes. I'm auditing you.
I know. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, there's a term in audit. It's called scoping, scoping planning, and that's kind of how I approached into when I started my real estate journey. So I quit about 4 years ago, my job, and that's when I dedicate a year time in scoping and planning, figuring out this real estate business. And during that time, it was really focusing on bigger projects, other podcasts, meeting new people, meeting other investors, going to conferences, to figure out the different avenues of real estate investing, and trying to figure out which avenue is best suited for my next stage of my life, or I guess this next career that I'm taking on. So I spent a year doing that and trying out different strategies. So I did, you kind of have to I think Robert Kiyosaki, in his book, he tends to encourage people to start small and then build up exercise to bigger multifamily. So I applied to, okay, how can I start where I am? Okay, I can get my real estate license. Once I got a real estate license, okay, let's try to cold call people. Let's try to door knock and try to sell. And I sold some houses, but realized quickly that is not what I like to do. So, but rather than feeling defeat, I was like, okay, I felt a momentum. Okay, that's not what I want to do. Okay, what's the next thing I want to do? I try flipping business. So I kind of I found a builder that I really love and admire, and she's a woman, and she's also a former accountant. She left her job 4 years ago, so it kind of gave me a window of, okay, maybe I can do this. And so I spent 3 months just to kind of shadow her and helping out her any way I can, and streamline her business. And that was really valuable. Even though I was giving a lot of my time, I got a lot of contacts out of it. I really realized that I did not want to do the flipping business. I partnered with her on a deal too, but it was not something I want. I see myself as a business that I can see my next career. So it was okay. So no to finding houses myself, no to flipping business. So what's next? So I did through the networking, I did find out syndication. And that's when I started investing a few deals as an LP, limited partner, and had a it kind of makes sense to me because it was kind of what I've been seeing in Wall Street. But when the bankers are putting these larger deals together, like they're buying shopping malls and stuff there, and they're finding investors to fund those deals. So, and there is also SEC filing. There's a lot of processes, due diligence that kind of very familiar to me in these types of deal. So that's when I was trying to, okay, how can I get closer? How can I get more knowledge and maybe graduate from the LP to the GP side?
Mm-hmm.
So that was my next step. So it was little by little, I found my kind of like next career over that year.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And it's like, that's kind of what we did when we first started. We trialed and errored. We tried like wholesaling, we did a flip, and we just realized we didn't really like it. But it's awesome that you kind of approached it with that open-mindedness and were really open to it. And also, so you were also, it seems like you were really quick to identify it as not really the right approach for you.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that's where a lot of people, you know, they get stuck in one thing and they're afraid to kind of let go of that thing, even if they've had some kind of success, right? You know, you can make money in anything, but if it's not necessarily something you like, I think quickly realizing that and then moving on to the next thing is very valuable.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I know you eventually, do you have anything to add to that? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, you know, whenever you start something, you know, if you can just find something, one thing that you learn from it, a lesson that is very valuable, and hopefully that will propel you to the next thing.
To the next step.
Don't look at it because people have a habit of not being able to break that pattern. And when you see a failure first, you try to gravitate towards your own pattern, your own behavior, and that's not going to get you anywhere. So you have to move forward and look at it as a success. Even if it's a failure, it is a success because you find something out about yourself and your journey and your strategy. So.
Yeah, we've even had to really take some time to like realize that, because in the moment it's easier said than done. You know, it can really suck. And so I do want to get into some of, like, you touched on how this is a male dominated industry, and I'm sure you don't always want to be like the spokesperson for that topic, but you know, but I mean, you brought it up, so I want to expand on it. But first, I would love to know, because you are on a all-woman team. So how did you guys end up meeting, and what roles are you each fulfilling to kind of complement each other and really leverage each other's strengths?
Yeah. So I think my other partner is Lana and Jen. Lana, we actually met at my old jobs at Wall Street. So we worked together for many projects, and you can say we've seen the worst of each other, the best of each other, but we still enjoy working together, and we know we can put a very good
complement each other,
complement each other in business. So in that sense, that's how that's why I tapped into her. It's like she was looking for something different, and she wants to get into real estate as well. So that's. But Jen, we found her in kind of like a mastermind, which you're also on. So we kind of found that we all have something that we can, even though we are all CPA background, audit. I think we all have something strength, and we still have differences and where we can complement. So I think, and it's also through time, right? So I think you guys, there's three of you, and you kind of have to figure out, okay, what do you like and not and dislike, and how can you guys complement each other? So for us, I like to talk to people. I like to solve problems. I like to so that kind of complement well in like deal acquisition side. So I like to talk to brokers. I'm not afraid to pick up the phone and figure things out. So the property managers that we have to reach out to for performance and piece the team together. I enjoy doing that in order to take that deal down. And then we have Lana, and she is really good at. We call her the lead underwriter, but she's more than that. She loves to solve. Figure out how to systematize processes, and she hates inefficiencies. So if there's something that we need to do again and again, she'll find a way to systematize it, and that's what she enjoys. And we let her do the rest of that.
Have
Yeah.
fun.
And
with
then yes, and then we have Jen. She is our capital gal. She brings in the money.
it. Mhm.
So she's very good. She has experience in the in fundraising, and because she works in not-for-profit industry, even though she's in audit or accounting world.
Yeah.
So she has experience in that, and she enjoys talking to investors. She enjoys like walking them through the details and how to break down and understand syndication. She enjoys those things, so we
Mhm.
let her run that show.
Yeah.
So
Wow. You guys have such a
yes.
power team. That's
Yeah,
awesome. And
that's
like
awesome.
each of you have your own strength, and it's distinct. It's really cool and respectable. And so touching on like what I was alluding to earlier regarding, because you guys are all woman team, and I believe in the past you've touched on some obstacles and like hardships that have kind of come with that. And not to say that it's like the same, but we've encountered similar in terms of like issues of just being young. And I know it's not the same, but being young, like some people just won't give you the time of day, and you have to get really creative with how you approach it. And so I would love to know, like, how has your experience been as a woman in this male dominated industry?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to do, um, how people perceive you,
Mm.
and that's one thing.
Mhm.
The second thing is how you perceive that feedback. So I think your first obstacle is trying to, okay, their perception of you. So a lot of times you have to fake it till you make it.
Yeah, yeah, I love that.
You do, and then
Yeah.
that's in turn, and you just have to keep on practicing.
Mhm.
I think internally, I think we're trying to not you're going to go through a lot of rejection.
Mhm.
Picking the next phone call and the next phone call. There are people who hang up with me, but once they hear my voice, they hang up. But at that moment, you either I took an opportunity to call them back
Mhm.
and just like ask them, did you hang up on me? or you just want, feel defeat and just let it go.
Mhm.
Um, but but I felt like I didn't needed to call them back
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that.
and keep going. And if they don't pick up, and I'll send them an email and I'll
Mhm.
follow up with them. I'll track them down and see what listing they have, and then can reach out back them to them, or I'll meet with them. So I think it's the persist. I don't take it. I think you have to have a thick skin.
Yes.
You don't take it personally, because they're not exactly saying no to
Mhm.
you, but they're saying no to something with your performance or your strategy. So we just have to figure out what is it to get your in, and then make that impression, so then they have a better perception of you. So no, you're not going to win everybody. So there are some brokers that I'm just not going to get along with. So I'm not going to even bother my time with. There's some brokers that they love our grit, and they will, we're starting to, after a year and a half, they're starting to realize that we're not going to leave. We're not going to stop bothering them. So I was like, okay, might as well just like, chat with these
Give 'em a
ladies
deal.
and
Yeah.
give them a deal.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, you gotta have that long vision of you being in this business. If you have that long-term
Mhm.
vision, you're gonna have you'll figure out some way somehow to make your own path.
Yeah.
So it might take longer than you expected, but as long as you keep on trying and figuring out how to perfect your performance, it's kind of like an athlete, right? You
Mhm.
figure out
Yes.
how to be better each
Yeah.
day, showing up better. So, I'm not perfect yet, so I have to figure out continuously.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I love that you said it's kind of like being an athlete, because, I was an athlete kind of growing up, but after a few interviews that, we've done, a lot of people have started to say, we've heard a lot of people say that sport itself is like, it's like
Business is like a sport. Yeah.
sorry. Yeah. Business is like a sport. And that's so true, because you wake up every day and you just go after it,
Grind.
and just grind. And so it's like you overcome obstacles, you whether you win or lose, you just keep on going. And the kind
Yeah.
of sport is the same thing.
And I love how you mentioned, like, I know you were at the event, the same event, MFI Con, and they were talking about Barbara
MFI.
Corcoran was on the stage and she said, perception is reality. And so it reminded me, what you just said reminded me of that, because like the perception of how other people see you is their reality, and as well as how you kind of perceive their perception of you is also reality. So if you can fake it till you make it, just like walk with confidence or call with confidence and persist, and that becomes the reality.
Mhm. I love her.
Yeah, no, she was awesome.
Yeah,
She was awesome. And so I do want to talk a little bit about your actual like multifamily investing career. And once you kind of broke into it, for us, it took us a while to really break into it. And I know you guys had a similarly challenging experience, not only just like breaking into it, but also getting that first deal. Whatever you're willing to talk about, but can you like maybe touch on some obstacles that you encountered leading up to that first deal, whether that was like previous deals or just that one deal in particular?
Yeah, so our first deal, it took us, when I say first deal, meaning the deal that we took down and we
Mhm.
actually got it. So that took us a year and a half to once we start our journey. But we did have a deal before that that didn't go through, and we spent a good amount of money in due diligence and upfront money, and we have to walk away. So sometimes you have to pull the plug, and sometimes a no deal is a better deal because it saves you tons of headache in the end.
Yeah.
So it was really hard because we would have gotten a deal sooner, but we have to walk away because it just the financial didn't come out exactly what we would like to see, and so we had to make a decision to walk away and drink some wine.
Yeah.
Well, I want to like expand on that a little bit. What
Yeah.
one, what did you take away from that experience that like you're applying now in terms of new deals? But also, can you maybe expand on like when you said you missed out on other deals? Were you focusing so much time on that one deal that you missed out on other opportunities as well, like while you were kind of trying to take that down?
Not exactly. So we that was when it would have been our first deal. So we wanted to spend all our energy in there.
Of course.
So we want to make sure that we close that deal, and so we didn't want to let it go. So, but we're us being auditors, we will turn every stone to make sure that we cover all risks. And at that time, that was the financial was not exactly what we like to see. There was a lot more bad debt, and that wasn't shared with us, disclosed. Yeah. So we had to make it this. It would have set us back and our investor a year back before we can make a decision. We will have to probably hold another year in our projection in order to make that return back. So we felt like it was our responsibility we cannot do that. We cannot have our investor bear that risk. Like we'll be okay to walk away and just we lose some money, but that's the part of the being GP, general partners. And you have to. This is a business risk. That's why you have the potential to make the profit, but you also have a lot of risk on your shoulders. So, and I think the lesson that I took away from that is like, okay, we're in this business, and this is just part of business. We next time we're gonna, we're probably not going to do anything differently because we're still going to turn every stone and look at every single deal. But there are going to be deals that are not going to make it through, and that's okay. And just let it go and move on to the next one. So don't take it as don't take it as a defeat. It's a win itself, but at that moment it was so hard to think that way.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And that you did end up moving on and pursuing and persevering, and then you ended up getting a deal as leads. So I'd love to know, I mean, can you expand a little bit about that deal and maybe touch on like that deal, maybe if you had any challenges there? But I also am more interested in after the deal. Michael Blanc talks about like the law of the first deal. Did you see a lot of traction afterward, and like what was your experience like? Is it like night and day, or just maybe touch on that?
Oh no, it definitely felt different after the first deal, and it took a a year and a half to
Mhm.
get there, but in between, there's a lot of process behind it. We had to perfect our game, we had to perfect our processes, our underwriting, in order to get to that deal. But once we were able to prove out that we can close this deal, we did feel like there's a shift. Is it either our confidence, or is it either because our name is out there now? Uh, we are starting to have brokers reach out to us on, especially the near our properties that we have right now. So it does. There is a lot of attraction there. The momentum and the exponential graph that you see takes a long time to get there, but eventually you get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it's like a rocket, just straight
Yes.
up. Yeah,
I love it. Awesome. Well, it is time for our speed round. Maggie, are you ready?
Okay, I'm nervous, but
Awesome. Yeah. Deep breath. Deep breath.
Yeah.
We'll go easy on you. Awesome. All right. Number one, what is one thing that you're doing differently today in your business that you weren't doing when you first started in real estate?
Looking for coaches. I'm more open to doing that. I think it's important. It's also, again, reference to an athlete. You can be an athlete yourself, but you need somebody to kind of look over your shoulder and tell you what you're doing wrong, and they might have to repeatedly tell you what you're doing wrong, and eventually for you to get it. So I think I'm more open now than before to kind of figure out, okay, what the coaches that I need and mentors I need around me to perfect my game even further. So
yeah. No, we completely agree. We see it as like leveraging other people's experience and their failures, and that way you don't have to make it, and it expedites your learning process too, because you can just leverage what they know.
Yeah, and it's like an infinite return on investment, because like once you learn something, that knowledge always stays with you,
and you get access to their networks. There's so many benefits. We could have an episode on mentors.
Yeah. But so second question, what is your, I guess, biggest failure? And we don't like to call them failures, but we like to call them lessons, because I believe you learn from every down. So what would you say is your biggest failure or lesson that you've learned in real estate so far?
I think the most valuable lessons, I think it has to be commercialization. Like, marketing is very important, and putting your name out there. And trying things out and not being afraid that of you might have to spend some energy and time and money, but it's part of your business, because you're not going to find a program out there or a coach that can satisfy all your needs, because you're individual, you're different. So I think for me, it was like, okay, how do I make this business that's unique to us, to Sage Investing Group, and also not compromise ourselves. But so that means allowing to try out different things and be okay with some challenges, and as long as you find something valuable from that program, I think it's a win. So I think it comes to a mentality, because I'm an immigrant and I don't like to spend money. Whereas I want to stretch my dollar as much as I can. But I think there's a shift in the mindset. It's like, hey, okay, there's some intangible value that we also have to focus on. So I think I'm slowly turning around, and I think I'm getting there, and I love that. I'm being open to that.
Yeah, that's awesome. What we found too, is like networking and building your network too, but also the education will have infinite return on investment that a lot of times you can't quantify, and you might not see the return overnight or even within a few years, but down the road you just don't know. It's like you're planting seeds in these relationships you're going to benefit from years down the road.
Yes, you have to believe and then go from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what is the number one book that you would say has had the biggest impact on your life and or real estate career?
I think building back to what I like to do, break things down to more simple steps in order to see massive change. So two books that I always like to go back to is The One Thing
Yes.
By so you know very well, by one thing, and by Gary Keller and Jay
Mhm.
Papasan, and the other person was Atomic Habits by
Yes.
James Clear.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So it's like a reminder of like, hey,
Mhm.
don't go too crazy.
Yeah.
Massive changes starts from something small and
Mhm.
perfecting 1% on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would love to know what is your one thing, and also do you have a habit that you wouldn't mind sharing with us? I'm just curious.
yes, usually for me, because I'm deal hunting,
Mhm.
so my schedule usually the first half of the day I try to do all that work, the heavy lifting.
Mhm.
So pretty much reaching out to brokers and connecting with them on a particular deal. So I spent most of my time during the morning. And then the ladies know, my partners know that
Mhm.
those are the time where I need to talk to brokers and reach out and talk about deals. So and then the second half of the day, I try to book that time to connect with individuals, so either potential partners or with so I can take down potential next deal,
Mhm.
or new investors. I tend to block that time for that
Yeah.
in order to see our business progress a little bit further and
Mhm.
further.
And this kind of leads into my next question, but it's kind of like a transitory question. So as you've kind of begun to get more deals under your belt, have you found that when you're like under a contract on a property, are you focusing on that, getting that deal across the finish line, or are you still underwriting, and like, are you still having that morning block in the day where you're talking to brokers, or how does your schedule adapt, if at all?
Yeah, so I still continue to to do that, but I do have
Mhm.
I do prioritize
Yeah.
that deal. So I do bucket that like if it was a deal that we're about to close,
Mhm.
I do put that on my morning list.
Mhm.
So because that is the closest thing that brings in the next acquisition fee or the next deal. I have
Yeah.
to focus on that
Yep.
to make sure that that deal goes close across the line, because that is going to translate to intrinsic value to the next deal.
Mhm.
Because if you have to close the deal in order to make it's part of your
Absolutely.
reputation among the broker community. If you can't close a deal, then it's going to be known. So so that I will bucket that as my priority as part
Yeah.
of the broker relationship on the my morning time.
Awesome. Awesome. And looking to the future, what are you aiming to accomplish moving forward? And what is your long-term vision for the business?
So we're that's a good question. We're actually having our circling around our annual Sage Investing Group
Yeah.
meeting, powwow, and
Love it.
usually that's going to go on for the next couple of weeks
Yeah.
to figure out our strategy for the next year.
Mhm.
So can't quite tell you exactly what we're thinking
Mhm.
because we haven't really fully discussed and vetted out yet. But it's more in lines of like, okay, scoping out what we want to do and how we and then we're gonna have to break it down like what we want to. So some highlight is like how do we have a better reach? That's kind of objective. Marketing, that's one of them. And two is like, okay, how do we continue to build on business partners and relationships? Because that eventually going to translate to how we can continue to thrive in this business.
Mhm.
So those are kind of like our primary two focus for next year.
Nice. More deals
Awesome.
too, right?
Yeah, more deals.
Yes, more deals. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
Awesome,
yes.
awesome. Well,
For sure.
you've obviously spoke a lot of wisdom to our audience today, but if you had to leave them with one piece of advice or piece of wisdom for them, what would it be?
I think um, this is in terms of for people who might be thinking of real estate journey or
Mhm.
or
Yeah,
or
real
some
estate
aspect of
or
it, right?
yeah, it could be real
Yeah,
estate or personal or just a piece of
yeah,
advice for life or real estate or business or whatever you'd like.
yeah. I think it's more like whenever you try something new, give yourself some grace
Mm.
because it's very easy to dismiss yourself and everything is all mental. So give yourself grace. So I gave myself a year to figure this out. So and through that, there was a lot of failures, and we don't like to call them failures, but
Yeah.
momentum, right? Learning
Yeah.
process. So
Yeah.
I think if you can allow yourself that grace period to learn, because it's almost it's a new career. So if you're trying to start a new business, new venture business, you give yourself that grace period. And as long as you're moving a needle forward, you should feel proud of your momentum.
I love that.
Rod Cleef calls them seminars. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And if anyone in our audience, Maggie, wants to learn more about you or just follow you on your journey, where can they go to do that?
Yeah. So our website is called sageinvestinggroup.com. We are also on LinkedIn. And you can reach out to me, Maggie, at sageinvestinggroup.com.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Maggie. We had a lot of fun talking to you, and we really appreciate all the value you brought today.
Yeah. And we'll definitely look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes.
Yeah, likewise. Like 3 against 3.
Yeah. Yes. Awesome. Thanks to everyone for tuning into the Real Estate Monopoly. If you guys got any value today, make sure that you share on Instagram, social media, whatever you use, and make sure you leave a 5-star review and a comment down below. Kenny, where can they find us on Instagram?
You can find us on Donis Brothers on Instagram, YouTube,
pretty
LinkedIn,
much anywhere.
Pretty much anywhere. Just search
Thank you guys.
You can just search up Donis Brothers on Google and you'll find us. But
awesome. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Let's get out there and take action.
Bye.